Hello friends, today I want to talk to you about what is a strategy session. Probably one of the most impactful terms I learned early on in sales was the term strategy session. Most people have an aversion to the term sales call, but when used correctly, a strategy session can have an immense impact on how your sales organization and company is viewed, and even how it performs. Can a well thought out strategy session really impact your business and your life? It absolutely can. Whether it's in your life or whether it's in your business or a sales call, a strategy session can have an important impact in all those areas. Understanding how is key. So let's dive into strategy sessions in all of those different areas, but specifically how strategy sessions and coin the right way, use the right way, can have a positive impact on your business and sales organization. If you're ready, let's go. So what is a strategy session? Like I said, it's a term that's been used a lot. It might be used for your life, like, hey, I'm going to have a strategy session with my coach to outline the strategy I want for my life, for my business, for my fitness goals, for my health goals, whatever it might be. A strategy session can really be an impactful term. Ultimately, a strategy session, I also like to call a needs analysis, right? That helps you understand where you are right now, where you want to get to, and see what you need to do to get from point A to point B. And along that line, there's strategies along the way to help progress and move you along. Many times a strategy session is best done with another person, right? You could certainly have a strategy session on your own, but a lot of times a strategy session is done with somebody who might be an authority or a greater authority than you in that topic that you're learning about, or an area of your life that you want to improve upon. Let's take, for example, a financial planner. If that's what they do all day, every day, sitting down and having a strategy session with you is important, right? They find out, what does your current financial situation look like? Where do you want to get to? What are the timeframes on that? What is the dollar amount? What do you want to see? And ultimately, how do they get you from where you're at to where you want to get to by putting strategies in place to move you down that path from point A to point B? Same thing with a health coach, right? Somebody that you sit down with and you have a strategy session. Here's where you are. Here's your health right now. Here's where you need to get to. About a year ago, I hired a health coach. I'd kind of been at a plateau. I'd been in an area I hadn't really been able to lose much weight. I felt like I was kind of stuck in a certain area. And I was to the age of my life that I was like, man, I need more help. Something's going on. I need to have a deeper dive into myself. I'd always felt like, man, I'm somebody who can get into shape, but I was struggling. So I hired this health coach. We did analysis, a strategy session. We did blood work. I found out exactly what was happening, and we put a plan in place to get to where I want to. Nearly 40 pounds later, I was able to see the powerful impact, even at this stage of my life, what a positive strategy session with the right individual can do for you. And I'm a big believer in strategy sessions. So how do strategy sessions apply for you and your business? I love strategy sessions when it comes to business. I think sometimes that could be done with an executive team, a management group. When you sit down individuals and you get the collective genius and you have a real conversation, an honest conversation about where you're at in your business, where you want to get to, and you start putting strategies in place, amazing things start to happen. You can then start to execute on each strategy. You can even outline which strategy needs to happen first, which one's second, third, and so on. But by doing that, you put strategies in place that can then be executed upon and can be delegated to certain organizations within your business. I think it shapes the whole dynamic, and I think annually, quarterly is when strategy sessions should happen, at least annually, to put a plan in place to grow your business that year through strategy and execution, but also quarterly to make sure that you are fulfilling those strategic initiatives and executing on those. And you can obviously recap along the way every quarter to make sure those things are happening. And honestly, I really believe strategy runs everything. It guides everything. A book that I really liked, I read a long time ago, but it's had a positive impact on me. It's not a popular book. It was called It's Not the Big That Eat the Small, It's the Fast That Eat the Slow. It was a story in that book about a Spanish franchise, a pizza franchise in Spain that started a business, right? And they started franchising. The individual who started the organization knew down to the metrics that if he handed out X amount of flyers in neighborhoods, that he was going to have X amount of calls, X amount of people come into the business, X amount of pizzas bought. That strategy, it ran his business for how many ingredients he needed, how many employees he needed to hire, and he ran it based on the fact that he knew the metrics from the very first strategy, which was handing out flyers, to what that strategy would then do for his business. And he grew his business exponentially, where it became one of the major largest pizza franchises in all of Spain. Now in our business, we actually use the term strategy session to replace sales call. It sounds so much better, right? A sales call, like I said, a lot of people have an aversion to that. Nobody wants to be sold, but everybody wants to talk strategy. Everybody wants to talk about strategic initiatives in their life that'll get them from point A to point B. So what are the ways to execute a good strategy session? First off, you need to build a relationship of trust. When you're talking with somebody and the goal is to have a strategy session, first off, there needs to be a little relationship building, right? You need to understand a little bit about them. They need to understand a little bit about you. Just having a good, energetic, positive conversation to start things off is usually the best way to get the ball rolling. Second thing is you really want to find out exactly what their current situation looks like, right? You need to do a deep dive. Where are you right now? And when we talk to people that are interested in our educational programs, whether it's investing in real estate or personal development to improve an area of their life, we really want to find out where they're at. If we can get a good picture of where they're at and deep dive into that, we know pretty clearly what we can do to help them and where to get them to. So understanding and a deep dive into where they're at is crucial. And you might say, well, I'll have to ask some personal questions. If it's not a big deal for you, chances are it's not a big deal for them. And we're not asking for super personal stuff, but an idea of what their family life looks like, what their financial situation looks like, where they've been, where they are currently. That paints a picture. Next thing you want to do is dive into their goals, but not just their goals, but the why behind their goals. Everybody has a why. Everybody has a why behind their goals. A goal is something that they want to shoot towards, but what's going to drive them to get their goals is why. Why are they doing that in the first place? Why are they talking to you? Why are they coming to your organization? Why are they coming into your life, right? Why are you having a strategy session with them? Because they want to move or progress forward. They will have a goal in mind, but ultimately that why is what's going to keep them going when maybe things don't go their way. Now, the fourth thing is I like to talk to them about the consequences of not hitting their goals, because sometimes people are motivated by the carrot or the stick, right? The carrot is dangled out in front that you're constantly moving towards. The stick is maybe something that you don't like, that if it doesn't happen, you realize there's consequences to that. So helping them understand the consequences behind not hitting the goal sometimes can also be a powerful motivator for them. The next thing is diving into the strategies that will help them accomplish their goals. Now, a big goal might seem overwhelming, but if you break it down into little strategies along the way, it makes it that much easier to execute. And helping them understand a strategic direction to get their goal is powerful because they see kind of a progression from where they're at to where they get there. And they realize that if they just take it at bite-sized pieces, they'll eventually get there. And the last thing is we want commitments. Not just commitments to you, but commitments to themselves, right? Nothing's more powerful. The main person you should be making commitments to is yourself. And having the individual on the other side of the aisle or on the other end of the phone, it's important for them to understand that. If they can make commitments along the way, chances of them hitting that goal. And if you can be the person that they're accountable to, even better. If it can be somebody else, even better. There was one statistic that I love. It said, if you say a goal in your head that you want to do something, the chances of you accomplishing that is 9%. If you write it down, it goes to 23%. If you say it, you write it down, and you tell somebody about it, it jumps all the way to 55%. But if you say it, you write it down, you tell somebody about it, and you ask them to hold you accountable, it jumps all the way to 89%. Think about that. If you want almost a 90% probability of hitting your goals, writing it down, saying it, telling somebody about it, and having them hold you accountable is the best way to do that. So all those elements make up a quality strategy session. And after you've gone through those things and you can tie it back to their why, chances are that is going to be a quality strategy session that will help people realize that what you have, what you offer them can be beneficial for them getting from point A to point B. Now, these are things I've seen work well in our business with strategy sessions and even in my own life. I'd love to hear what you have to say, what you've seen, what things you do for strategy sessions that might be different than what I've done. And I'd love to enter in a dialogue with you. Feel free to comment below. As always, I've got a free gift for you. It is my 12-part sales and persuasion course. Just click on the link below, aaronsalestraining.com. And once again, thanks for stopping by and watching our video. Thanks.